What difference does it make if entire cultures disappear?
What I want to posit is that cultural heritage, memory play a role in the resilience of communities. And the stories that we tell, where they don't exist, I'm looking at Rachel, oral history, right? You know, there's studies that have demonstrated time and time again the role of oral history in helping communities recover from disasters. So whether it was the earthquake in Japan, Hurricane Katrina, you name it, there's always this, there's an instinct that we have to tell the story, to build the archive, to get the photos somewhere, to document what happened, what was there before, what your experience was.
I want to go back to that very basic and stunning question. Why does it matter that whole communities disappear? And I think that brings us back to the issue of why we value the existence of these communities in the first place, and the question of cultural memory, because obviously libraries and museums and all the rest of it preserve the memories and the culture of people who they think are important enough to preserve. Mm-hmm. So we go back to the issue of, well, who's important to preserve, and is not everybody's memory important to preserve, and especially those communities that have not been given the resources or are marginalized or are oppressed or are not wealthy. Why does their memory matter? And I guess then that takes us, at least in my mind, to the question of funds of knowledge and the things that people know that are really important that we are losing when we allow those communities to disappear, or when there's a genocide, or when they're more or less genocided, kind of like indirectly, but that's sort of the result of all the abandonment and the neglect. And then those communities, in fact, do kind of disappear, and we've seen many human communities, and of course many other kinds of communities disappear. You say, well, what do those communities really know that we need? But that question of who the we is and what they know, who is the we and who is the they? And what's interesting about the climate issue is that I think it's really tossing up that we and they that was assumed through a colonial lens, because really we're all operating under this legacy of colonialism where certain populations are considered to be important and others are sort of in the hierarchy of importance. They kind of descend in importance. And you can see that most of our museums and our libraries unfortunately reflect that colonial legacy of importance. So we indeed do lose the knowledge of the people who we do not consider to be important. But what is at stake? What could be at stake is our own survival, because oftentimes it's precisely those communities that have that type of knowledge. For instance,
I detect a change, and I think people are beginning to see themselves in these tragedies. And it is the power of image. And we're all vulnerable, and I'm hopeful that it allows us to figure out what we have in common as opposed to focus so much politically on what divides us, because we are all in this one together.